Hi everyone. This video is to talk about the third quarter moon, which we just started today, January 3rd. We just had the full moon last night and into early this morning. And I want to talk about the details of the third quarter and what the characteristics and flavor of it is. But before I do that, I want to talk about sort of a bigger picture. This time we're in right now is unique. As are all moons. All moon cycles have their own flavor because they happen within the larger cycles of our lives, of the sun cycle, of the calendar year, and of everything else we have going on. So right now, this moon we're in is bridging the year 2025 and 2026 in the Gregorian calendar. It's also deep winter in the sun cycle in the northern hemisphere. This last quarter that we had, the second quarter of the moon, the flavor of the second quarter of the moon is like spring, when the moon is building toward the full moon. But that was happening it was coming off the heels of the winter solstice, the darkest night of the year. We came through Christmas, we came through New Year's, all in that second quarter. So we've got this moon energy of spring in the second quarter, but we have this sun energy, the solar cycle of deep winter. It could be that last week you did not feel very springy because the winter cycle was happening deeply and you were with that. That spring energy is more of a subtle flavor of a layer of it, depending on where we are in the year. I know for me, it's not like I had this spring in my step last week. Definitely, it was a deep, intense week. I'm hoping the awareness of these cycles will help you attune to what's happening for you and how it resonates for you in your experience. I'm going to talk about the third quarter of the moon in general, knowing that the way I describe the flavor of it is also superimposed upon the deeper cycle and maybe the more evident cycle based on weather and daylight of the sun cycle. Okay, so we just had the full moon, and the full moon in the sun cycle, it's like the summer solstice, right? It's the brightest illumination of the moon. The moon is at its height. So summer solstice and full moon are like the height of the yang of that cycle. So it's the highest yang, it's the brightest, the most outward. At the time of the full moon, the moon is rising now at sunset, close to sunset, and it is setting at sunrise. So when the moon is at its full illumination, that's when it's in the sky the longest in the night. So not only is it fully illuminated, but it is fully in our vision for the longest part of the night. So as soon as the sun goes down, bang, there's the moon in the east coming up. So if you were to relate the cycle of the moon to the cycle of our breath, which is very interesting, the full moon is like the pause after the in-breath. So you breathe in completely, and then there's this pause of fullness. You're completely full before you begin to exhale and release the air out of your lungs. If you want to tune into the full moon in your breath, you can do that by just noticing your breath and then noticing the feeling at the height of the inhale right before you begin to exhale. And that can be a beautiful meditation for any of the moon stages, right? The full moon is the height of the inhale, and the new moon is the depth of the exhale, the pause after the exhale before you start to breathe in again. So this full moon starts the third quarter of the moon. The third quarter is called the waning gibbous stage. So waning because the moon is getting smaller every night, and gibbous means the moon is now less than full, but not less than half full. This third quarter will go until January 9th for the next 7 or so days. And this quarter of the moon can be likened to summertime. So it is a yang outward time. Sometimes they'll say when you set your intentions at the new moon, they come to fruition during this time, during this full moon stage into the third quarter. before the moon starts to decline past half full. So again, that said, we're in this full moon going into this third quarter summertime of the moon. However, again, we are on top of deep winter. We're in the deepest part of winter still. So observing, right, that layering of how the moon and the season overlap in your life, and how are you experiencing those energies together. One way that the moon is supporting us right now, the moon being in this summertime for the next week or so, is that many of us are kind of finishing up our holiday break from work. If you were lucky enough to have one, I've been off work for a little while, and we're returning to our regular Gregorian work schedule. I'm returning on Monday the 5th. So that boost of summer, that boost of outward yang energy in the moon, I'm going to intentionally try and ride that a little bit to buoy me, to get that sort of oomph to get going again, even though it's still this deep yin time of year in the winter. So it's like we'll start our outward movement again, potentially, but we can also hold internally that knowledge, that sort of depth inside of us. So we can hold and honor all the germination that's still going on and that will continue to go on for at least another month or 6 weeks as we're in this deep part of winter. So Happy New Year and best wishes for a supported third quarter moon.